This is GARIS Masculist MGTOW flyers. That is 2-3 page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de GARIS. This is flyer number 422, entitled Masculism 101. This is part 2, carrying straight on. Header: the hated fluffy feminist controlled divorce courts. Text: the monoconscious feminists took over the divorce courts in the 1970s, bringing with them, by default, their fluffy feminist attitudes regarding men, seeing men as cash machines to pay for women to have babies. In today's world, one married father in 4 gets financially crucified and has his life ruined in the hated fluffy feminist controlled divorce court system. He will lose custody of his kids with a 90% probability. He will lose his house to his fluffy ex-wife so that she can raise her kids in it. He will lose half his wealth and half his stuff to her. He'll be forced to make child payments to her for his kids, whom he will barely see. If his ex-wife is a real fluffy, he may be forced to pay her alimony until he dies, thus allowing her to parasite off his money after the divorce the way she did before the divorce, with no moral nor legal obligation on her to get off of her fat, parasitic ass and fip up. Header: fluffy feminist divorce courts as genociders. Text: modern marriage is now so toxic for men that it's the main reason for the rise of the MGTOW, in brackets, men going their own way, men's movement, who refuse to marry, reject paternity and spend their money on themselves, utterly refusing to face a 1 in 4 chance of being financially massacred and having custody of his kids ripped away from him by the hated, monoconscious, fluffy feminist hypocrite divorce court judges and lawyers who see men as cash machines to be robbed and abused. In many countries now, 2/3 of young men refuse to marry and reject paternity, which makes these fluffy feminist divorce court lawyers and judges indirect genociders, thus wiping out whole populations in a few generations, so have to be stopped with bullets if necessary in a sex war. Responsible males, masculine soldiers, will not, in capital letters, tolerate that these MFBs who control the divorce courts be allowed to wipe out whole populations, so in the limit will shoot them, to remove from them their profoundly misandrous power over men, and then men-fair the gender laws, so that men are prepared to be fathers again, so that whole populations are not wiped out. Header: the MFB's most formidable enemy are masculist scientists. Text: instead of a sex war, there is a much more benign approach to combating the indirect genocide of the MFBs in the divorce courts, and that is to destroy those core ideas of the feminists that are irrational. Masculists are second-wave male feminists, pushing for giving women equal rights with men, allowing women equal access to the professions, equal pay for equal work, etc. These rights for women are seen by masculists as essential prerequisites for the effective fipping of women, so that we can live in a fip society, a principal political goal of the masculists. But there is a lot of irrational, illogical, delusional garbage in third-wave feminism, that is, real empowerment of women at men's expense, that masculine scientists can easily refute with their scientific knowledge and contempt for the insensate, innumerate, PC-fairy ignorance of most feminists. Masculine scientists then crush it when they come across it. For example, header: masculine scientists' crushing of core feminist beliefs. Text: some of the core beliefs of third-wave feminists are anti-scientific, so can be easily crushed by masculine scientists. For example, 1. Women are as intellectually capable as men. 2. The patriarchy, that is, general male dominance and male power over women, should be destroyed. 3. Men are toxic, causing the wars that make humanity suffer so much. The scientific evidence does not support the above major claims of the third-wave feminists. Science shows that women are dumber than men. Women will never be able to outcompete with men at the top end of the performance scale due to women's genetically determined inferiorities relative to men. Header. Women's genetic inferiorities relative to men. Text. Women are genetically inferior to men in the following ways. Women's average IQ is 4 IQ points dumber than men's. Women have an IQ variance that is 10% smaller than men's. That is, women's IQ scores are more bunched up over a whole population, and men's are more spread out. So the morons and the genii are males. Since the genii are males, it's not surprising that women have won a pathetic 1% of the science Nobel Prizes. Men have 10 times higher testosterone levels in their blood than women, so are a lot more aggressive, dogged, persistent at difficult tasks, so achieve far more than women. Women have 10% smaller brains, that is 10 billion fewer neurons, which is like taking an ice cream scoop out of the male brain. So women don't build anything, invent anything, create anything. Women have always been parasites of men. It is men who create cultures and women who parasite off them. Women evolved to be prostitutes to men, the sexiest of mammals, in sexual heat every day of the month, unlike monkeys or dogs, to be better able to bribe men with sex in exchange for scarce male-hunted meat for herself and her babies. Header. The patriarchy is inevitable. Text. Third-wave feminists want the patriarchy removed by imposing quotas so that there is an equality of outcomes between the sexes. For example, half of company board members and half of national presidents should be women. These gender quotas should be imposed by law. Masculists claim that if the patriarchy is genetically determined, in the sense that the top performing scorers will always be men, for the reasons given previously. Women cannot compete with men at the top performance level, so if the third-wave feminists achieve their political goal of attaining equality of outcomes with men, then many of the top positions will be filled with women with inferior abilities compared to men with superior abilities who are rejected. This will cause these fluffy feminists to be seen by masculists as sexist hypocrites and will thus be hated by the masculists. This is not good for society. It rejects the principle of, quote, the best minds for the best jobs. Header. Women sexually selected men to be toxic. Text. Men are taller, bigger, stronger, fiercer and smarter than women because women sexually selected men to be like that. Taller, bigger, stronger, fiercer men were better able to defend their woman against other men, especially against the male warriors of enemy tribes. Women evolved to be sexually attracted to male brutes who increased the odds of their woman remaining alive and reproducing. Women sexually selected men who were smarter than them because such men were better hunters and hence were more sexploitable by women. Women want to mate with superior men to obtain the superior DNA from such men for their kids so that their kids have superior DNA than their mothers. This female instinct to mate up is called hypergamy, and all women have it. Header. Causes of the patriarchy. Text. Masculinist scientists claim that the patriarchy has two main causes. 1. Female hypergamy. 2. GMV, that's greater male variance. Men are smarter than women because of female hypergamy. Superior intelligence naturally rises to the top, since men are smarter than women on average and a lot more aggressive and ambitious. Men naturally rise to the top and occupy the top jobs. Variance is a statistical term that measures how spread out scores are over a whole population. Men have only one X chromosome in their cells, and women two. The Y male chromosome is much smaller than the X chromosome, so many of the genes in the male X chromosome are expressed, that is, used. There are many more recessive genes than dominant genes, so males express a greater variety of genes than females do. So at the top end of the performance scales, males inevitably dominate. Header. All male traits are sexually selected by females. Text. If a woman dislikes some trait in a man, she refuses to mate with him. Women have always had a monopoly over reproduction, since it is the woman who decides which man gets to ejaculate inside her to get her pregnant. Third-wave feminists bitterly complain about certain traits in men, for example, male toxicity, the patriarchy, etc., that women largely created. It is this kind of fluffy feminist irrationality that masculist scientists sneer at and aim to crush, with blistering masculist scientific attacks against it. Masculist scientists have little patience with iscyanate, innumerate, PC-oriented, monoconscious, fluffy feminists, and do not take them seriously, dismissing them as 21st century peasants and attacking such feminist ignorance wherever and whenever these masculist scientists come across it. Header. Women are about to lose their two traditional monopolies. Women have always had their two traditional monopolies over men, that is, their vaginas and their wombs. Thus, men have always been forced to be nice to women because men want to penis women. On the whole, men don't respect women as a sex due to women's grossly inferior track record when it comes to building, creating, and inventing societies. Women have always been parasites of men that way. Women couldn't hunt, plough, nor fight. Men saw women as useless, only tolerated for their two traditional monopolies, that is, as fuckholes, baby factories, and child raisers, which are obviously essential but not status-worthy since, quote, any woman can fuck and raise kids. But women are about to lose these two monopolies in the form of the sex bot and the art womb, that is, artificial womb. The sex bots are coming out now with their luscious curves, their film star faces, their creamy, grippy vaginas that women, especially fat women, cannot compete with. Japanese scientists have already grown a goat in an art womb, so human babies are not far off. Header. Forcing women to be nice to men. Text. When men can grow their own kids and prefer to sex their bots rather than women, especially fat and obese women, then men will become a lot ruder towards women. 40% of women are obese in many countries and 30% are fat, so 2/3 of women are now unfuckable as judged by men who are health conscious and slim. Millions of such men are wiping their hands of such women who masculists label pejoratively FUFs, that's F-U-F, fat, unfuckable females, or cock shrinkers, or yuckers, that's the reaction a man has when seeing such a woman naked. Masculists expect feminists to be bi-conscious, otherwise fat, unfuckable, monoconscious feminazis will be severely punished by men, by these women not getting one. Masculists teach men not to be interested in MFBs, nor in FUFs. Masculists preach to women the common sense idea that, quote, if a woman wants to keep a man, she needs to remain nice to him, otherwise he just walks away from her. Monoconscious feminists have become MFBs and hence pay a very heavy price. They go manless and hence loveless, sexless, babyless and spat at by men. Header: Masculist lifestyles. Text: Masculists advise men not to live full-time together with a woman in the same dwelling. Such a lifestyle promotes complacency and incivility. Too often, the wife turns into a nagging, controlling bitch who will drag her husband into the fluffy feminist-controlled divorce court and destroy his life. Masculists advise men to live the twef, in brackets 2A, 2F, equals 2 apartments, 2 fips, or latting lifestyle, that's living apart together. Latting imposes discipline on the woman and the man to remain nice, to be civil, or he just walks away. The regular separations between the couple, for example, 4 nights per week together, 3 apart, create a hunger promoting better and more frequent sex and affection. Some MGTOWs are so pissed with women's psychology, for example, nagging, controlling, hypergamy, sexploitation, obesity, using men as cash machines, etc., that they have nothing to do with women, going MGTOW monk. MGTOWs and masculists strongly advise men not to marry, not to have kids, in brackets, until the gender laws are men-fared, and certainly not to be a manslave to a parasitic bloody fluffy. Header: Masculist politics. Text: What do masculists want politically? Many things. Masculists want the media to take up the masculist message and spread it to the masses so that humanity learns that